Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Longboat Energy PLC post-AGM investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab just on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just type in your question at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it's appropriate to do so on the Investor Meet Company platform. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll, and I'm sure the company, as usual, will be grateful for your participation. And I'd now like to hand over to CEO Helge Hammer. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Mark. Very happy to present to you today. It's not that long ago since we announced our deal with JPEX, and this morning we announced that we have now the approval from Norwegian authorities, which is really good and very timely, and that we are heading for completion in early July. So that's great progress. And other than that, it's not going to be that much new in this presentation, but we're really happy to run through where we are generally with our assets and our plans. The strategy for the company is unchanged at this stage. You know, we are set out to build a full E&P business. We have been active on exploration and kind of next phase very focused on adding production into the business. And as you will remember from the announcement on JPEX, we have a small production acquisition that is being worked on in Norway. The company is really in a much stronger position now to deliver growth, and you know, the next big value trigger is the drilling of the Velocet exploration well, which is now expected to commence quite soon. I think the expected spud date is between the 20th of July and 20th of August. So early August is the most likely time. We also focused on the licensing rounds, very selectively so, both in the Norwegian round and in the Malaysian round. And in parallel with that, we continue to pursue M&A opportunities in both regions, and now in Norway together with JPEX, and in Malaysia on our own. Company is in a good financial position from where we are now. Once we complete, we would get a cash injection into the Norwegian subsidiary. Very happy to bring some fresh capital in without having to do an equity raise. We also have the financing facility with Norwegian bank, SR Bank, and ING, which can be drawn on for the Norwegian exploration. And we have a facility that is coming with for the joint venture, which is being provided by JPEX. You know, I think you all know us, so I'm not going to kind of dwell on this one here. Just a little reminder of the Norwegian E&P business. Norway is still a very, very big and active industry. There's there's 4 million BOEs produced daily in Norway, 2 million of oil and 2 million of gas. Norway is one of the biggest provider of gas to Central Europe, and Norway is also very active on the ESG front, both in terms of being active in energy transition and in producing oil and gas as clean as possible. And many fields are being electrified. There is CCS schemes. There is windmill, as you see on the picture there, windmills and generated power to power platforms. And all of that is making the industry attractive. And Longboat is all about building an attractive portfolio which kind of will be sought after in the coming years. So I think we are in the right geographies, chasing deals and opportunities. I'll hand over to Nick on the JPEX deal, which you made a huge effort in putting in place.
Thank you, Helge. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nick Ingrassia. I'm the Corporate Development Director here at Longboat Energy. I know we've gone through this before, but just as a refresher, in a little over a month ago, we announced a joint venture with JAPEX, which is a Japanese listed, partially state-owned upstream and midstream oil and gas company. This transaction really transforms our Norwegian business, with JAPEX investing up to $50 million to become a 49.9% shareholder in our Norwegian subsidiary, which will be renamed Longboat JAPEX Norge AS. We received regulatory approval for the transaction announced today, and it is our expectation that the transaction will now go through to completion sometime in early July, after a number of the sort of procedures are met in the investment agreement. This transaction was something we worked on for a very, very long time. We've got to know the JAPEX team extremely well, and we're very excited to be working with them. They have a huge amount of expertise, and we feel that they are an excellent partner for Longboat in Norway. The transaction itself is it's a $50 million initial investment, which is made up of an initial cash consideration of $16 million, a further $4 million contingent consideration in relation to a production acquisition, which remains ongoing, and then a further $30 million, which would be payable in the event that Vilåset is successful. And I know Helge has mentioned that will be drilling shortly, and I think Hilda will also talk a little bit about that as a prospect. For us, the most exciting part of the transaction is this financing facility, which is a $100 million facility for the joint venture, which is there to assist us in making acquisitions. And I think that this is a real differentiator in our ability to engage with potential sellers of assets without needing to have subject tos all over any offers that we make. And the facility itself is at a very competitive interest rate, especially if you look at the sort of interest costs that are being paid in the bond market at the moment for 5-year money, which is well in excess of, it's usually in the sort of teens at the moment. The JV itself will pursue a real growth-led strategy, targeting both, I think, production and developments, with a target of sort of significant production within 3 to 5 years. But we will also continue to drill exploration wells, as we believe exploration really is a real value driver in the business. Just a little bit about JAPEX. I've mentioned that it's a big business listed in Tokyo. It's got a $2 billion market cap. It's about 35% owned by the Japanese government. It's got a touch over 150 million barrels of oil reserves and about 60,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day production. So for us, this is a big business, but it's not a giant business. And what we'd like to sort of point out is that the potential for Norway to be a meaningful and significant part of JAPEX is large, and therefore we've gotten a lot of attention internally at JAPEX, and we see a huge amount of support for what we're trying to do with them. They've got both global and domestic E&P operations, and I think, like us, in terms of ESG, they're very focused on delivering energy responsibly.
You want to? Yeah. Okay. I think we have covered a lot of this, but I mean, it's quite clear that the deal with JAPEX is transformational for our business in Norway, and I think we are extremely pleased to be able to do that without having to do a big equity raise, and now be in a position to actually pursue growth and heading for some production in kind of the medium term. So the next phase is to bring in also some third-party financing and make that facility with Longboat go as far as possible. Norway is in a position where there are a lot of development projects underway, and we are in a very strong position to pick some of these projects and get share in some high quality projects. So I think with that, I'll hand over to Hilde to give us a little update on the Norwegian assets. I think we can. I think this probably is something you have seen before, so I suggest we go straight to to Velocet, if you're okay with that. It just here's a little bit on the drilling schedule. So it's the Velocet well, which is the next well, and then we have a program of 2 to 3 wells in 2024. Not exactly, we don't know exactly which ones, except that Lotus is already firm and has a rig. Osvik and our Malaysian licenses are still being matured, and they can be 2024. They could end up being 2025, and we're also looking at farming opportunities. So we will keep working on delivering a very attractive drilling program both in 2024 and 25 of 2 to 3 wells here, and then also look to drill in Malaysia. So over to Hilde on Velocet.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hilde Salte. I'm the Managing Director of Norway, soon to be JAPEX, Longboat JAPEX Norway. Looking forward to that. Our first well in the drilling sequence is the very exciting Velocet. On this prospect, we have both a material interest, 20%, and it's one of the, I would say, the most exciting prospect being drilled on the shelf this year. It has very large resource potential, 177 million barrels, with a 30% chance of success. These numbers are from ERC, so they are validated by a third party. And what is even more exciting is that on success on Velocet, as you can see from the drawing, or the picture to the right there, then you have numerous other fault blocks, which looks very similar. It has amplitude support for being a gas-filled reservoir. And then the follow-on potential is around 200 million barrels. So we like prospects or licenses where you have follow-on potential in the same license. And this is in tieback distance to Aasta Hansteen in the Norwegian Sea. There is believed to be capacity. So keep your eyes open for this one. It's as Helge says, it's going to start drilling towards the end of the summer, and this is incredibly exciting for Longboat and Longboat JAPEX, but also for the Norwegian continental shelf. Moving further south, now with our joint venture with JAPEX, we are in the position that we no longer is monetizing Kveikje. Kveikje is actually our first development. If you remember from the view graph that Helge showed earlier with the discoveries in Norway last year, Kveikje is the best discovery in Norway last year. It has the address, it has sound volumes, and it sits in an area where there's multiple other discoveries adding up to 200 to 300 million barrels. So here there will be an area solution worked up by the majors. In addition to this, as part of the APA in last year, we saw additional potential. Kveikje is an injectite, it's a special reservoir type, and we have specialist competencies in the team. So we've been able to unlock more of these opportunities. Lotus being awarded. This has sound volumes and chances of success for being so close to Kveikje, and we hope to increase our share in this area and use our expertise to build in this area. And you can see from the drawing in the bottom there, Kveikje is the one with the solid colors, and then Lotus, the prospect, is sitting to the right of it. The well is being planned, but we are contributing into the license on that one, and that's another exciting well for 2024, where Helge said we have secured a rig. Last year, we also did another very exciting discovery, the Osvik discovery. Here we drilled a successful main bore and a sidetrack, which we tested. The test results were less optimistic than we had hoped for, but we have very large in-place gas volumes here, 100 to 250 million barrels. So a lot of the focus in the license is to look into technologies that can improve the rate, improve the recovery factor, and bring this along. And as part again of the APA, we look for opportunities where we already have knowledge. We picked up Osvik South, which sits, as you can see from this cartoon at the bottom, it's the continuation of the same fault block really to the south. It is shallower in the stratigraphy, so it could have improved reservoir quality. And this is could double the volumes on Osvik, given we get to a position where we could get good recovery factors. Moving on to the status of the Norwegian shelf, we are of course very, very happy to join forces with JAPEX. Nick and Helge has elaborated on that, so I will not do that. But this puts us in a position to chase our wider strategy with both development, exploration, and production. Our objective is to grow our 2P reserves and become a significant producer within the next 3 to 5 years. We will target 10 to 30% shares in discoveries and producing assets within a non-operated interest. We would kind of like to focus on straightforward projects like subsea tiebacks. Then the Norwegian tax system provides a downside risk protection in Norway. As you can see from the picture on the side, that these are all the PDO submissions in 2022. A lot of these ones are now being approved by the ministry. The investments here are sizable. $29 billion is numbers that are floating around. And we expect that the operators and partners will start to divest parts of this as they have received approval from the ministry. But we, of course, then we will still be an active exploration and appraisal company, targeting now 1 to 3 wells a year. Norway is still a very active shelf with more than 30 wells drilling and high success rate. 2023 has been a good year so far. So we will keep chasing exploration in the future as well, together with development opportunities and production opportunities. And yeah, we already mentioned our 2 wells that is firm in a project. Of course, parallel to this, the APA, its submission date is the 23rd of August. We're of course looking into that as well. So I'll hand over again to Nick to present our Malaysia portfolio.
Thank you, Hilde. This is just we haven't talked a lot about our Malaysian license. You know, this license is actually extremely exciting. This is a huge area of something like 12,000 square kilometers in the deep water offshore Sarawak. Sarawak is a extremely prolific oil and gas basin where the majors have been dominating. It's a big shell area and huge infrastructure network of pipelines bringing the gas down to Bintulu, which is I think the world's largest LNG terminal. So we are in an area here which is very exciting and which offers a huge amount of opportunity for us. And this is a start for Longboat, and an exciting start. And this license has a giant prospect in it called Kertang, which covers something like over 200 a mega closure with some exciting geological and geophysical indications of a good quality gas prospect of multi TCF. It's we have some time here to mature this prospect and bring in some and farm it down, get some carry on it, and a lot more to come in this area. And Nick is very busy with pursuing BD opportunities, and I'll hand over to you to talk a little bit about what we are trying to achieve in the area.
Thank you so much, Helge. So as Helge says, we were awarded SK2A earlier this year, and we really saw it as an opportunity to put our toe in the water over in Malaysia, begin to build those important relationships with partners out there, with the government. And really what we saw in Malaysia was what we sort of saw here in the North Sea broadly 15 to 20 years ago, where there was a significant amount of prospectivity remaining. There were a number of counterparties exiting the area, refocusing their portfolios, which creates opportunities for smaller businesses like Longboat in both sort of exploration, but also in the discovery space, where there are almost hundreds of discoveries across Malaysia, which sort of sit fallow and ready for development. And your ability to go in and potentially source those through direct discussions with the government or through their licensing rounds is very high. And in the month subsequent to being awarded the license, we've been spending some time on the ground out there and meeting with both government and counterparties, trying to look for what would be an interesting opportunity for us to really grow the business out there. And I think that the business itself will really be a replication of what we're trying to do in Norway, which is create a full cycle business in the region, adding production, hopefully followed by sort of developments which have sort of lower capex and shorter lead times than we often see here in Northwest Europe. And this can happen either through licensing rounds, through direct discussions with the government, and potentially M&A opportunities. I think that some of the structures and some of the ideas that we've used here in Northwest Europe there are options and opportunities to put those to play out in Southeast Asia. So we're really, really excited. There is a lot to be done out there, and we'll be speaking more about that in the months to come.
Thanks, Nick. And so just to finalize, we are entering a really exciting period with Longboat. The deal with JPEX put us in a strong position in Norway, and we will have full focus now on delivering both on the assets we have. So in Norway, it's to mature the Kveikje discovery, and then we have the exciting Velocet well coming up. And then in parallel with that, we would also have a strong focus on growing our position from the one entry and a really exciting entry we made into Malaysia. So I think with that, we'll finalize the presentation and we'll move to some Q&A.
That's great. Helge, Nick, hi, Hilda, thank you very much indeed for updating investors this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just using the Q&A tab on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company just take a couple of moments to review the questions you submitted already, I'd just like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, will be available via your Investor Meet company dashboard. Helge, if I could invite you please to open up the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see there's a number of questions from investors throughout today's call. So thank you to everybody for your engagement. If I may just hand back to you to read out the questions and then give a response where it's appropriate to do so. I'll pick up from you at the end.
Thanks, Mark. So we have some questions, and let's take one at a time. First question is a pre-submitted one. The recent JV news was better than the market could expect. I know the company do not speculate on the share price, but the current market cap does not correlate with the value of the business. How are the board going to get the value of the business reflected into the share price? Well, I think it's a good question, and I think we agree with the views. We cannot do much with the share price other than continue to announce everything that is relevant and announceable, which we continue to do. And also we are running an active IR program, meeting investors and doing presentations like today. The share price is often driven by momentum and sentiment, and a setup in the right direction. But the real step change will come from drilling success. The first of the committed Norwegian exploration was spudding in the coming weeks, so that should create quite a lot of excitement. And then the acquisitions we plan to make both in Norway and JV will be significant once we can announce them. Then we have a next question here, which is related to tax. How will a Norwegian joint venture with JPEX work in terms of tax refund? How much tax back are Longboat expecting to receive in November 2023? I don't know, Nick,
yeah, I'm happy to answer that. There's no impact on the tax position because of the joint venture, so we still will receive the refunds that are reflected in our annual accounts to the year ended 22, and a vast majority of those proceeds will go to repaying the exploration finance facility drawings that we have against those rebates. So there's no impact. It will continue to operate just like any other business in Norway, and to the extent that we continue to have a loss in the business from drilling, we will continue to get refunds going forward.
Thanks, Nick. Then we have another question here. Know you have the approval from Norwegian authorities. Will the JPEX deal completion in early July? How long do you imagine it will take for the announcement of the small production deal? That's one that is difficult to answer because you don't do a deal before you have the signatures on it, and then we announce it immediately. But when we announced in May, it was because we have some confidence in this deal happening. So I think I cannot comment on the timing, but other than what we've already said in the public domain.
We're still working on it. It's still going on.
Yeah.
And so we're hard at work. We recognize that landing production is a key target for the business. So we're working hard behind the scenes to make that happen.
Other than funding, what other benefits does the JPEX relationship bring? And maybe because Hilda is
I can
spending a lot of time on that.
I can take that one. I think this is a very I'm really looking forward to work together with JPEX. They are a very technically focused company, and we also value technical quality and evaluate the opportunities thoroughly. So we are very aligned there. They will contribute with secondees into the organization. They also have a large technical team in Tokyo with specialists that we can draw upon. So that's going to strengthen us a lot. And they also have a thorough understanding for the E&P business, which I think is going to be important for a joint venture going forward. And just to add to that as well, the ones we have met, they are very nice. So I think this is going to be a good working relationship going forward.
Thanks, Hilda. Then we have a question about the current cash position of the company and how is G&A and Malaysia funded. Does Longboat need to contribute cash for Norwegian JV production acquisition?
I'm not sure we can comment on the current cash position at the moment. All that stuff will come out in our interim results, which will be published in September. The G&A and Malaysia stuff is funded through PLC. I think we previously announced that there's a repayment of an intercompany loan that is made from PLC into our Norwegian subsidiary. As part of the transaction, PLC will be receiving money back on that intercompany loan. So there will be funds available in PLC to maintain the running of that and our G&A. I'm not sure I can comment too much on the acquisition, but the way that we think about the JV at the moment is that it is the funder of the acquisitions, and that's why we put together the financing package that's in there. So I'd expect us to focus on acquisitions that can be financed by the JV and its existing resources.
Thanks, Nick. And we have another question. Are you in any discussions for potential deals once the JPEG deal is complete, other than the small one you mentioned before? And the answer to that is, like, we are continuously in discussions regarding deals, and we unfortunately cannot comment on them, because you don't know if you get the deal before you are kind of all the way there. But there are a lot of discussions ongoing, and there are we have several targets that we are working very actively on.
I'd say that in terms of the joint venture, we're not waiting for it to complete to behave as if we are a joint venture. So we're working very actively with our partners already. So not wasting any time.
And there's a question here. There are no insider purchases. Why do insiders consider Longboat shares fairly priced? I think we do consider our share price or a company, significantly undervalued, and we would love to buy some shares. And we have been, continuously in closed periods, unfortunately. So hopefully that will soon. Period. Hopefully soon there will be. So once there is an opportunity, I think we would love to buy some shares, actually. I think we are getting to the end here. Maybe there's one more. Can you explain the cash flow requirements for the next 12 months?
I think that's something that we'll sort of talk about. We can talk about cash and forward when in our interim results, with our CFO when he's available.
Yeah. And then I think as a last question, could you please give a summary of the fiscal regime in Malaysia? Maybe we can comment a little bit on that, Nick.
Yeah, I can do a little bit of commentary. We could run an entire seminar about Malaysia, but Malaysia is a PSC regime. It's a production sharing contract regime. So the government remains in ownership of the resources, and then the investee company, ourselves, invest money, and then you recoup from production. You recoup your investment plus a return. We were looking at it the other day, and they think about it. We talk tax, here in Northwest Europe, and they talk sort of government take. But I think what you would broadly see in Malaysia is they've had a lot of amendments to their PSCs recently. They have a lot of different types of PSCs to encourage different types of players to chase different types of things. But I think you would broadly see that the government take in Malaysia is somewhere between sort of, let's say, 60 to 75%. If you compare that with Norway, which has a 78% tax rate, it actually is quite favorable. And in some cases, for smaller fields and things, they've done things quite differently, and there's a huge incentive to get after things. So we think it's very competitive. I think the other benefit of having a production sharing contract regime is that it is a contract. It's a contract between you and the government, and they can't change it. Unlike places like the UK, where we've seen huge fiscal instability and an inability of people to invest in the longer term. So we see that as being a big advantage in Malaysia.
Thanks, Nick. And I think we will have to end the QA session at this stage. We're sorry, there are some questions we didn't have time to answer, but I think we've covered the large majority of it.
That's great, Helge. Thank you, Nick and Hilda, for taking the time with those questions. I know investor feedback will be important to you all, and Helge, I'll shortly redirect everyone on the call to give you their feedback. But I wonder, before doing so, if I may just ask you for a few closing comments to wrap up with, and then I'll send investors to give you their feedback.
Thank you, Mark. And I think just to finalize, thank you all for attending. And we are in a really exciting period. Times ahead are going to be, there are lots of opportunities. So we're really looking forward to keep working on all these and hopefully keep delivering some good news to all of us. Thanks a lot.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Please can I ask investors not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. This may take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly appreciated by the company. On behalf of the management team of Longboat Energy PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.